Everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. It's Friday, TGIF. You made it through another week. Beautiful day. It's going to be a great night. Let's get downstairs, see what we can conjure up for today. We got a big mosh ahead. Okay, we're down in the shop. First, I wanted to talk real quick about that. How we did a hammer, ball peen hammer that was a Vaughan ball peen hammer that we did last episode. And, you know, we were talking about the kind of the shape it was in and things like that. I just wanted to talk a little bit about tool manufacturing. You know, when these companies make these tools, you know, obviously it's a hunk of metal that gets drop forged into the shape of the hammer, and then it's fitted to the handle. And, you know, for a good amount of these tools, one of the most expensive parts of making these tools is man hours or man labor. You know, the people working on these tools and what it equates to as far as how long they're going to spend on each tool. Remember, if they spend 10 minutes on a tool, they can only do 6 an hour. You know, that's nothing. And, you know, so a lot of times they will do whatever they can to try and cut that down, to get more tools out, because that's where they make their profit. That's their whole profit margin. And a lot of these companies, like Vaughan, for example, Vaughan has a secondary subsidiary company that it's called Gravic, Grayvik, I believe, or yeah, and their Gravic tool line is like more or less, not like seconds, more or less, if it doesn't kind of meet up to the standards. And what happens when you drop forging tools is those dies do wear out after a while, and they got to be replaced, and they're expensive. So they might, let's say they might do 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 hammers out of a set of dies, and it's starting to get a little bit, the letters aren't as crisp and the lines aren't as crisp. So they might say, okay, we can get another 600 hammers out of this before we have to replace it, but they won't be as sharp, so we'll make them the Gravic line. And that's what a lot of companies did back then. And, you know, Sears was another one. Sears used to have their handyman line. You know, Craftsman was the top of the line, lifetime warranty, and their handyman line only came with like a 5-year warranty, something like that. But, you know, it was quite a bit more affordable, and that's why they do it. So it's all about profit. And that's why I don't get upset about, you know, when I saw that one, I was like, geez, this is, you know, this one was, this one was not worthy of their Vaughan name. Probably would have been better with Gravic. And a lot of times what they do when things start getting a little bit sloppy is they use paint. And that's what I think this hammer was painted black around those areas, so that hides it. So they only have to polish up the head and the ball, and that's it. The rest of it gets painted. So just something interesting about how tools and you know, it's a profit drives everything. Next up, I want to talk real quick about handle length, because there was a little bit of confusion with some of the length. Because, you know, I cut that this hammer down, took about 1 inch off of this hammer because of just for personal preference. But I just wanted to tell you why certain handles are certain lengths. Traditionally, a handle length is proportionate to the weight of the head. So in other words, if you have a lightweight head, there's no reason to have an extra long handle, because it's made obviously for fine and delicate work. The heavier the head, the longer the handle, because a lot of times framers and things like that want to use get the most out of their swing, and then they want a long handle, and also for reach, you know, when you're doing framing work. Now, depending, most handles, when they're made from the manufacturers, the handle manufacturers, they come about 13 inches long. And then after you set it, cut it, and everything, you know, it's all done, you have about 11 to 12 inches showing on the handle for most average hammers. Now, depending on, obviously, this beautiful little Thor here, you know, you could see here, this is the rawhide and copper mallet, but you can see it's got a nice little, this is a beautiful handle, nice little, just perfect for this size and what you're going to use it for. You wouldn't be wailing away with this hammer. No sense in having a 12-inch handle on here, so it's proportionately accurate. Now, some hammers like this is your standard Craftsman, you know, all-round hammer, and it's a 16 ounce, and it's a claw hammer, so it's made for some kind of carpentry, things like that. Now, like I said, some of the frame is like a heavier or longer handle because they get a increased swing and better reach. Let me show you that. Now, these early stiletto hammers with the titanium heads came with these really long handles, and the reason for that is because what this is missing in weight, which is the force that's exerted onto the head of the nail, it makes up with speed. So by increasing the handle length and gripping it down here, you get tremendous force when you slam this hammer. But what you do give up is a little bit of accuracy, because the longer the handle, the less accurate you are. Nobody is as accurate with a long handle as you are with a shorter handle. So it's kind of a trade-off. But when you're doing general framing, you're working with 2x4s. If you miss, you're a little bit off of something, you're not damaging anything. However, if you're going to be doing finish carpentry, your handles are going to be a little bit shorter, because again, you see that it's thicker up here, because a lot of times you'll choke up, especially if you have to start something. That's very common. You're not driving in with tremendous force because you don't want to miss, especially the head of a brad or something like that, and slide off. So the closer you are to the head, the more accurate you'll be, and the lighter the hammer, and depending on what you're going to use. The worst thing in the world is when you see these extra long handles on small-headed hammers. There's no reason. Now, believe it or not, this goofy-looking hammer was, what happened was there was a break. This broke the shaft. I got it in two pieces. It was I think this was my grandfather's or something like this. But anyway, it was broken, and I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna cut this part off, the broken part, the split, and then I'm gonna shorten it up. And I made this small little hammer, and the length of this handle here, from the bottom of the hammer to is 7 inches. And I just did this as I quickly set it, put it in. This hammer is probably my most used hammer in the shop, believe it or not. I mean, how many times this short-handled hammer comes in handy? And I know a lot of people that said the same thing. They said, I got a short-handled hammer. I use it all the time. So I would like to challenge you to take one of your old hammers and shorten up the handle to about 7 inches, and see if you don't grab for this a lot of times for certain things. It's just that short handle for a lot of jobs. The funny thing is, as you start getting into sledgehammers or handheld sledgehammers, it reverses itself. The heavier the hammer, a lot of times they get shorter handles. So it's all personal preference. Next up, I want to talk about how old was that hammer handle. A couple people were wondering. I always found this interesting because it's impossible to tell exactly how old the handle is. But when I said old growth, here's what I mean. Look at the growth rings, okay? You can see the growth rings on the left here. You can see they're spread out and stuff. And newer tree farms and things like that, they grow their trees so that they can get the biggest trees as quick as they can. But in the old forest, they were kind of squeezed together. And that when I say old growth, a lot of times these rings were very tight, and this was a very tightly grained, ring structure on here. So that's what I mean by old growth wood. And you don't see that too often today, and when you do, you grab it. Here's an example with two cutaways of a 2x4. Okay, you can see the top one here. You can see the growth rings are quite a far distance apart. And look at this. This is an older piece, an older 2x4. And again, they might be different species that grow differently. But, which one do you think is going to be stronger? You have one here. I can't even count the growth rings here. I mean, there's dozens and dozens. Whereas, so this is a quick growing tree. And this one has been around for a long time. And it gives you strength, all those rings. So, a lot of times when you're looking for handles, grain orientation is one thing to try and get a proper grip. But I'm always impressed, boy, if you can find one that has a lot of growth rings, grab that. A couple people ask me why I use the poplar for the wedge or the hammer. And a lot of manufacturers throughout the years have used poplar, just like they, use hickory for the handle. The reason they use hickory, because it has a spring-like and shock-absorbing properties. So far, they haven't found any wood that's better than hickory for handles. And poplar was always a popular wedge. And I'll tell you why it was popular, because it's not the hardest wood. There's a scale that Gabriel Yanker uses. They call it the Yanker Scale, and that's the wood hardness scale. And basically what they do is they press a ball bearing into a piece of wood, and they see how many pounds of pressure it takes to get it to go halfway down. So that's how they could tell the hardness of the wood. It's very interesting. But the poplar doesn't even show up on most of the charts because it runs about 540 on that Yanker chart. And there's dozens of woods that are harder. So why use poplar? Okay, this is the poplar in question. And the reason we use poplar a lot of times is because, first of all, it's a very straight grain wood, and it's a very strong wood, yet it's soft enough to conform to any irregularities in the wedge space. But the most important thing about poplar that a lot of other woods don't have is that it's very stable. So that means that your wood wedge will not shrink and then loosen up. So that's why poplar was always chosen, for its stability and the fact that it won't split when you're driving in it. It's really, they do make good wedges, and that's why the companies use them. Last up, I had to go upstate today to do some cleaning up, and you know, the leaves are starting to fall and stuff. It was a beautiful day. And I had a lot of memories going up there, you know, about going up and passing the leaves. You know, here in the Northeast, we have the leaves start to change on the annual trees, and it's a beautiful sight to see. You know, if you haven't seen the leaves turn, you know, it's just absolutely spectacular. And I thought I would share some photos with you I took on the way up, and let's take a look. Now, I remember when I was a kid, my parents would throw my sister and I in the car when my mom would make a picnic lunch, and we would head upstate to look at the leaves turning. Does anybody ever do that anymore? Because it was just such a beautiful time. And, you know, I was driving up there today looking at the beautiful leaves. They're all turning in different colors. It really took me back. One of my favorite things to do at this time of year is to go leaf watching. A lot of people do it up here in the Northeast, and I wonder if you ever do it near where you live. Now, I always stop at Home Depot on the way upstate, and I just happened to notice these set of nice Husky Nut Drivers. What's nice is they're made in Taiwan, lifetime warranty. You can see this is the standard. It comes standard and metric sets, and the good part is they're pretty reasonable at $17 a set. Okay, we're back upstate, probably for the last mow of the season. You can see the trees, you know, they're starting to lose their leaves, and the grass has kind of stopped growing at this time of year. Let me show you something over here under the shed. Now, in the tractor shed here, one thing I noticed early in the season was there was these two little yellow jack nests. You see them? One here and one here. And, you know, there was a few yellow jacks. They didn't bother me. I don't bother them. Everything was fine. It was small nests. You know, I figure once the winter comes, but look at this. This is the last guy. The last guy, you know. I feel bad because, you know, this is it. It's, you know, another couple days, you'll get frost, he'll be gone, but it's, you know, he's hanging on to life for the last time. Okay, we're all finished mowing the lawn. Beautiful day. It's about 72 up here, and you can see the sky is blue, and it's a beautiful day. Still, you know, the leaves are falling now, but I got all of them up on the lawn. By tomorrow, there'll be a lot more leaves, but there's good news. This little guy's not alone. He has a girlfriend or something. They were just feeding each other, so there's two left. Next up, I noticed one of my cats. I don't know, he's looking a little bit strange. Maybe he's a different breed. I don't know. He comes around, and but I still love the guy, but he's a little bit shy. Okay, that was a heck of a mosh there for Friday. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care now. Bye-bye.